In a world that's constantly evolving, there's one question that keeps coming up. What does it really take to lead through change? And hence, the title of this episode, which is What is the key characteristic of a change leader? So today I'm going to share that one key characteristic that separates effective change leaders from everyone else, and why, without it, even the most talented leaders struggle to stay relevant. Let's discuss.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos.
Welcome to the Ask Denis episode. This is a freestyle episode where I'm asked a question by our listeners, or I share my thoughts, experiences, and insights from working with many leaders around the globe. Well, hi everyone. This week I posted that the podcast, the Leadership is Changing podcast, has been recognized in the top 100 change management podcasts by an organization called Million Podcasts. Now, the Leadership is Changing podcast is ranked number 5 in the change management category. In fact, they've actually recognized us in several categories, and you will notice that, what we've noticed is that the Leadership is Changing podcast is in the top 10 in several prior other categories as well. So time to celebrate. It's really great to get that recognition, but thank you to our listeners, our guests, and our support team for everything you do to help this episodes and podcasts get out there to many people. There are a lot of people out there today who need this podcast, and I'm talking to leaders all the time, and it's just like, go into my podcast, listen to this episode, that episode. I think that if they did and they got themselves into actually listening a lot to these episodes, they will get a lot out of it and in turn be greater leaders. Okay, so today's question is simple, but actually very powerful. What is the key characteristics of a change leader? Now, if you've been leading for any length of time, you'll know that the landscape of business and leadership has dramatically changed. I think that the foundations, the fundamentals of leadership are still there. But the way that we do things and how we do things have changed dramatically. Now, change isn't something that happens once in a while anymore. It's constant, it's complex, and it's coming at us faster than ever before. My question to you is this. As a leader, are you ready to cope and get on with that change? Because I often say this, you don't get to opt out of change, but you do get to choose how you show up. And that brings us to today's question. So what is that key characteristics? Well, I think it's this. It's adaptability. It's not charisma. It's not intelligence. It's not experience. It's not the war stories. However, all of those are going to actually help. But it's the ability to adapt, to do that shift, that stretch, that learn, and lead in the face of uncertainty. That's what defines a true change leader. So I'm going to break it down more into different areas here, but the question I've got here is, why adaptability? Some of you might be thinking that right now. Because change leadership isn't about having all the answers. In fact, sometimes we need to keep moving forward without the answers. It's a bit like sometimes a plane will fly and there's fog, but we may not be able to see in front of us, but still goes ahead. But yes, they have some radars to help them. Maybe you're driving along the road and there's fog and you can't see. So sometimes you drive, but you may not actually have all the answers. You know what it is? It's about asking the right questions. It's about staying present when others, what do they tend to do? They tend to panic. It's all about pivoting when the ground beneath you starts to shift. And let me tell you this, change does not stop for anybody. It's not going to wait for you. It's just going to keep on moving. So we have to be able to adapt to move forward. Now think about it. Leaders today are being asked to navigate technology disruption. It's happening all the time. In fact, so much so that by the time you've actually got your head around it and adapted, it's more than likely going to be already out of date. Economic conditions. That's sort of the area whereby the economic conditions can be quite volatile. Global competition. Because we are living with this technology, businesses are able to have a longer reach now into different organizations and different countries. Cultural transformation. Remote and hybrid work environments. Now, think about that. That's where the COVID happened and how people started to work from home. But how do you bring people back? And do you do that? Do you keep people remote, or do you have a hybrid kind of situation? Or do you bring them all back into the office? Shifting generational values. Now, what do I mean by this? This is whereby we're noticing that there's new generations coming into the workforce. So in some organizations, some of the leaders I've actually interviewed on this podcast, they've had people who are 4, 5 generations working in that same organization. And then there's a question I ask in my interviews with leaders. It's around the rising employee expectation. What employees are expecting from leaders. You know what? There's no playbook that covers all of this. There's no single degree or experience that can prepare you for every scenario. So, what do great leaders do? They adapt. It is as simple as that. You know what? The other thing too I wanted to talk about and give you an example of adaptability in action. Because here's a client, and they're in a fast-growing company. Now, their market shifted practically overnight. And what had been working suddenly wasn't. Revenue projections dropped, team morale slipped, and the pressure mounted from the board. Almost sounds like HP in the older days. Instead of locking into panic mode or pretending everything was fine, that leader, she decided to pause. She stepped back. She got her senior team together and they did something powerful. They reevaluated everything. Their business and product strategies, their leadership structure, even their vision, mission, and core values. Now, it wasn't easy, but what she led with was adaptability. And because of that, they didn't just survive the change, they're now thriving in a new area that's opened up even more opportunity. That's what change leadership looks like. That's what adaptability makes possible. And I wanted to share that example because sometimes people go, yeah, but can you give me an example of an adaptable leader? I want to go into a little bit deeper here by giving you sort of the characteristics of an adaptable leader. Adaptability isn't just one skill. I actually think it's made up of several qualities that you can develop. Here they go. There's 5 of them. I'm just going to read them out, and then I'm going to go through each one of them. Self-awareness. Number 2 is curiosity. Number 3 is resilience. Number 4 is flexibility and thinking. And number 5 is courage. So the first one is self-awareness. You know how to respond to change. And if you can catch your emotions early and choose how you want to show up, that's going to be really quite key. So if you've got some self-awareness around that, that's great. Number 2, curiosity. Instead of resisting the unknown, you lean into it and you ask, hey, what can we learn here? Number 3 is resilience. You bounce back from setbacks. You don't just get stuck in the past. Hey, number 4 is flexibility in thinking. You're not married to your own ideas. A smart leader will be open to input, innovation, and trying different things, iterations. Number 5 is courage. Let's be real here. Change is scary. But adaptable leaders, they move forward despite the fear. And let me add this. Adaptability isn't about being reactive. It's about being responsive. You know what? There is a difference. A reactive leader is caught off guard and scrambles everywhere. A responsive leader sees what's happening, takes a moment to assess, and then moves intentionally or moves deliberately. Okay, so how do you build more adaptability? In other words, you might be thinking right now, okay, Dennis, I'm hearing all this, but how do I become more adaptable? Well, there's a few quick strategies to help you do that. Number 1 would be schedule time to think. Adaptable leaders don't just go and go and go. They make space to reflect, anticipate, and plan. And I talk about this in my Success Hour workshop all the time. Number 2 is surround yourself with diverse thinkers, people who can challenge your assumptions and help you grow. Number 3 is run scenarios. Think through possible futures, as we call it, or possible scenarios or possible approaches. What if this happens? Then what will we do? What if that happens? What will we do? Number 4, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Growth and change live just outside that comfort zone. The more time you spend there, the stronger you will get. Number 5 is lead with questions, not just answers. So instead of telling your team what to do, ask them, what are you seeing? What's changing? What do you need to let go of? Just some great questions to be asking them. Listeners, to lead change, you must first embrace change. What I see is that adaptability is the bridge between chaos and clarity. It doesn't mean you'll always get it right, but it does mean that you'll stay in the game. You listen and you learn. You lead forward, even when the future is uncertain. So listeners, as you head into the weekend, here's my challenge or call to action for you. 3 simple questions, but real impactful. Number 1, where do you need to adapt right now? Number 2, what have you been resisting that you need to reframe as an opportunity? Number 3, who do you need to become to lead the change going forward? Who do you need to become to lead the change going forward? Remember this, your team doesn't need perfection. They need a leader with presence. They need a leader that is adaptable. And they need you leading with courage and clarity. Hey listeners, if this has sparked something for you in this episode today, what I'd love you to do is share it with your fellow leaders, friends, networks, and I'd love you to put a rating on the podcast and a comment. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss out what's coming next as an episode. Listeners, keep leaning into change, keep growing, and above all, stay deliberate. Hey listeners, that's it for this episode. It's always a pleasure being with you. Thanks for joining me on the Leadership is Changing podcast. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.